A bit more than a year ago, I released my first review ever, which was on Sonic Adventure. Now today, we're going to be looking at its sequel, Sonic Adventure 2. I have a pretty long and extensive history with this game in particular, and I know that there is a debate going on between which is better, Sonic Adventure or its sequel, and I'll be sure to touch base on that in this review. So, let's get right into it. This is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Sonic as a franchise has gone through some interesting changes over the years. Whether or not you actually agree that a Sonic game has ever even been good, you do have to admit that most Sonic games have an odd habit of changing things up to try to find a certain niche in audiences. The 2D Sonic games tended to progress like any normal series would, but the weird stuff seems to have started with Sonic Adventure and its sequel, Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 was originally released for the Sega Dreamcast in 2001, and has since been released in updated formats on other platforms. I personally have a ton of experience with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the Nintendo GameCube, and it has been one of the first games I've ever 100% completed. Yes, I've spent hours trying to A-rank Metal Harbor, and yes, I fucking regretted it at certain points. The changes behind Sonic Adventure 2 during development alone were drastic, and the list is just too long for me to squeeze in for this video. I will note that there were two major changes during development. The first was that there were only going to be 3 playable characters, Sonic, Knuckles, and Eggman. This naturally spurred fans to beat Sonic Team with terrible Sonic OCs, and thus Tails, Shadow, and Rouge were added in. Secondly, the game was divided out between 2 storylines as opposed to 6 from the previous game. This was probably one of the better changes for this game, but we'll get into that later. The story behind SA2 is a bit complicated, but I will attempt to simplify it. 50 years before the events of the game, Eggman's grandfather Gerald Robotnik creates Shadow, a hedgehog that was meant to be the ultimate life form and help find a breakthrough cure for a terminal illness afflicting his granddaughter Maria. Long story short, the funding government invades the research facility, kills Maria, and locks Shadow away while Gerald turns into a revenge-seeking nutcase. Cut to the present day, Eggman releases Shadow for his schemes, and after a bit of banter, Shadow goes off to steal Chaos Emeralds while Sonic takes the blame. Why is Sonic taking the blame? Because the police in this universe are fucking colorblind. As Sonic and Tails try to find out what the hell is going on here, Knuckles prevents the Master Emerald from being stolen by destroying it.
Let's crack over the Echidna Training Manual for a second, shall we? Let's see here. Oh, there it is. It's rule 1, as a matter of fact. It's, you don't break the fucking Master Emerald!
Eggman makes it to the research facility located on the Space Colony Ark, and threatens to use the Eclipse Cannon against Earth by demonstrating its power against the Moon by blowing it in half.
I don't think that's nearly as evil as fucking up all the coastal tides. I mean, we Californians really need our surfing.
Sonic and his friends go to the space colony to sort shit out, but when Eggman gets the last emerald to power the Eclipse Cannon again, the colony starts falling to Earth. You see, after Gerald snapped, he tweaked Shadow's memory and programmed the Ark to fall into the Earth and destroy it after the 7 Chaos Emeralds are collected in the Eclipse Cannon. Now, how did Gerald do this after being arrested? The game doesn't say. It's just a big, gaping, planet-sized plot hole. Hell, I would have been fine with Gerald escaping, hacking a cell phone, or even the guards being stupid enough to give him a computer. But we don't get an explanation. Either way, everyone on the Ark goes to stop it from wiping out humanity, which leads to an epic final boss fight with the Bio Lizard as well as Shadow's death. Until the next game. Since there was a pretty heavy redesign in Sonic Adventure 2, there's quite a bit to discuss with gameplay in particular. First off, we get to play as 6 different characters with 3 styles of gameplay within 2 storylines. Sonic and Shadow have high-speed platforming, Knuckles and Rouge have treasure hunting, and Tails and Eggman have mech shooting. You know, like Gamma from the previous game. It's a really odd thing to keep in, especially since Tails didn't use a mech in Sonic Adventure. Each character goes about completing their missions in their respective storyline with occasional fights with their rival. As far as how these missions are completed, there are a few tweaks, specifically with the treasure hunting and mech shooting. I mentioned in the Sonic Adventure review that I thought the treasure hunting was too easy. Well, here, the difficulty has been amped up a bit too much. The levels gradually get bigger and bigger, but the problems begin when you realize that you only have access to one Master Emerald shard at your radar at a time. Once you grab one, the radar will start automatically tracking the next one. You can use the hint screens to help locate the shards, but doing this affects your overall score. That means that you need to find every single Master Emerald shard quickly without hints in an ever-growing area. Easier fucking said than done. Ironically, the Master Emerald shards are in fixed positions on hard mode, making it the easiest to A rank once you have all the upgrades. As for the mech shooting stages, the process has been simplified. Simply use your mech to get to the end of the stage while shooting many things at once in order to increase your score. The biggest challenge with these stages is the control and the camera, with the former being pretty sluggish at times and the latter liking to move around on its own, usually when you don't want it to. There are also 2 driving stages and, well, we don't talk about those. All characters get a series of upgrades. Some of these upgrades are in plain view, some of these upgrades are hidden, but they're all needed to get A ranks across every stage. Well, except for the magic hands, which they're basically used as a pimp slapping tool than they are an actual upgrade. All stages are divided out into 5 categories for you to A rank, with most following this formula. Complete the stage, collect 100 rings, find the lost Chow, complete the stage in a time limit, and hard mode. Each stage gives you an emblem just like in the last game, and collecting all 180 of them, you gain access to the Green Hill Zone. Not all of the emblems are in stages however, as some are in the returning Chow Garden. Similar to the previous game, this Chow Garden is a time sink if you want to change of pace, and it's gotten much more sophisticated than before. You need to complete all the Chow races and the Chow Karate levels on every difficulty to obtain these emblems, and for those that just want to play a Sonic game, this may come off as a middle finger. Before I get into my traditional bitching and moaning, I think it's fair to go over some of the things that Sonic Adventure 2 does right, as well as some of the improvements from its predecessor. First off, the music is very well done, and I find it even better than Sonic Adventure. I mean, seriously, who among us hasn't sang along with Cityscape, Pumpkin Hill, and Live and Learn? I also find that the emblem system is a little better managed here compared to the last game. Before, emblems could be found almost anywhere, even in hub worlds, but here the emblems as well as the objectives to get them are pretty clear cut. And this is a personal pro for me, but I do like how levels are a little more streamlined here by reducing the multiple pathways. This is most likely a con for most Sonic fans, but in a 3D platformer, I find multiple pathways distracting when I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. I'm pretty simplistic, I know. Now let's get into the not so good things. Aside from that gaping plot hole, the voice acting is just as bad here as in the previous game, but more confusing is that the models seem to have suffered a downgrade too. In gameplay, one of the most obvious things that's wrong here is that with Tails, being a shoehorn character, is restricted to his mech, which gets even weirder when you use him or Eggman in the Chow Garden. The next thing is that as you progress through the stages, gimmicks start rearing their ugly heads, especially in Mad Space and Meteor Herd. And it really doesn't help that in order to A-rank these stages, luck really needs to be on your side, since these stages are so expansive and your radar is so restrictive. But the biggest problem for some is with the actions in the controls. 90% of your character's actions are mapped to the B button, so it's not uncommon if, for instance, you're running at top speed as Sonic and want to go in for a light dash, but you end up somersaulting instead. If you're playing as either Tails or Eggman, then the control you're fighting most is for the camera, since it loves to move around on its own when you want to get a good look at something. Then there's the Chow Garden at 100% completion. If you're the type to take any and all Sonic games seriously, then you probably hate the Chow Garden, since it's out of place and you would need to spend a lot of time there to train and feed your Chow. Personally though, I do like it, since it gives me something to do when I need to take a break from my 76th attempt at A-ranking Metal Harbor. Yeah, some of these stages can be a real pain in the dick to A-rank too, particularly the driving stages. Now the all-important question, which is better, Sonic Adventure or its sequel? And this is the big problem, both games are about on par with each other. Both games have bad voice acting, but pretty intense gameplay. Both games also have incredibly kick-ass music with an epic final boss. And both games also have a pretty dark storyline, which I, for one, can really get behind. Even their differences balance each other out, like how Sonic Adventure has better control but too many different gameplay styles, while its sequel has some control issues but more focused gameplay. Or perhaps how Sonic Adventure 2 has more gameplay time, but its predecessor is a bit more loyal to the 2D games the fans love. So the better game really falls down to the preferences and what you, the player, are looking for. Would I recommend Sonic Adventure 2? Sure thing, but do play Sonic Adventure 1 first so you can compare for yourself.
So that's going to do it for the Sonic Adventure 2 review. Which game did you think was better? Now while you go start a flame war in the comments section, I want to announce a new straw poll simply called the Edgeathon. Concept? Super simple. Just a list of edgy as fuck games for you to choose from, and that way we can make fun of it. Super simple. So go vote on that. And while you do that, I'm going to go listen to some sweet Sonic Adventure 2 soundtracks. This has been Regnilla wishing you to kick ass and not get your ass kicked. Take care, people.